Be ready for today's eerie enigma. Something was wrong with the stars. They spiraled downwards, a vortex of blinding, my breath catching in my throat. And then I heard it. I wanted to run, to escape the unsettling sight and sound that had invaded the night. And in that moment, I understood true fear. The city never suited me. Too many people, too much noise. I yearned for silence, for solitude. So I sought refuge in the only place I could find peace, the woods. It was a humid summer night when I set off, leaving the city lights behind. My destination, a secluded clearing deep within the forest. The air grew cooler as I drove, the scent of pine needles replacing the exhaust fumes. By the time I arrived, the sun had already begun its descent, casting long shadows through the trees. The fire crackled beside me, casting dancing shadows on the surrounding trees. I sat alone, staring into the flames, lost in thought. The city felt a million miles away, a distant memory fading with each passing moment. Out here, I was anonymous, insignificant. Just another soul seeking solace in the embrace of nature. The night stretched on, the air growing heavy with humidity. I lay down on my back, gazing up at the star-studded sky. The vastness of space never failed to both awe and terrify me. It was a reminder of my own insignificance, a humbling experience that brought a strange sense of peace. As I lay there, lost in contemplation, a strange feeling washed over me. I tried to ignore the feeling, to lose myself in the beauty of the night sky. The stars twinkled above me, distant suns in a sea of endless black. But my peace was short-lived. A flicker of movement caught my eye. Something was wrong with the stars. At first, it was just a subtle shift, a barely perceptible change in the familiar patterns of the constellations. I dismissed it as a trick of the light, a figment of my imagination. But then it happened again. A cluster of stars near the horizon seemed to move. They danced, these celestial anomalies twisting and turning in a way that defied the laws of physics. The dancing lights grew brighter, their movements becoming more erratic, more frantic. They pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly glow, casting strange shadows that danced across the forest floor. I watched, transfixed, as they drew closer, my breath catching in my throat. And then I heard it. A low hum, barely audible at first, but steadily growing louder. It vibrated through the air, through the ground, through my very bones. It was a sound that seemed to originate from everywhere and nowhere at once. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of fear against my ribs. I wanted to run, to escape the unsettling sight and sound that had invaded the night. The forest, once alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, fell silent. The chirping crickets ceased their chorus. The rustling leaves were still. Even the distant hoot of the owl was silenced. An oppressive, unnatural silence descended upon the woods, amplifying the eerie hum that pulsed through the air. I felt a cold sweat break out on my skin. My senses were on high alert, every nerve ending screaming at me to flee. But I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, paralyzed by a fear so profound, it felt like a physical weight pressing down on me. The air grew heavy, thick with a strange metallic tang. It was difficult to breathe, as if the very atmosphere had become charged with an unknown energy. The temperature plummeted, the warmth of the fire beside me no match for the sudden chill that seemed to emanate from the approaching lights. I closed my eyes, desperate to shut out the terrifying spectacle unfolding before me. When I finally forced my eyes open again, the lights were directly overhead. They had arranged themselves into a perfect circle, a halo of pulsating light that hung suspended in the air above the clearing. The beams intensified, bathing the forest floor in an eerie, otherworldly glow. Shadows stretched and contorted, taking on strange, grotesque shapes. Familiar trees transformed into menacing figures, their branches reaching out like skeletal claws. The hum reached its crescendo, a deafening roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth. I covered my ears with my hands, but the sound penetrated my skull, vibrating through my teeth. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the hum ceased. The circle of lights pulsed with an energy that seemed to crackle in the air. The forest held its breath, every creature, every leaf, every grain of earth awaiting the spectacle above. I couldn't tear my gaze away, even though every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide, to escape the spectacle unfolding before my eyes. The lights began to descend. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed they spiraled downwards, a vortex of blinding light drawing closer and closer to the forest floor. The air crackled with energy, the scent of ozone sharp and acrid. The heat intensified, forcing me back from the dying embers of my campfire. My skin prickled with a strange energy, as if every cell in my body was vibrating in unison with the descending lights. The light was almost blinding now, searing into my retinas, burning its image into my mind. The light coalesced, solidifying into a single blinding point at the center of the clearing. I squeezed my eyes shut, unable to bear the intensity any longer. The air thrummed, the very ground beneath my feet vibrating with an energy that seemed to shake my soul. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the light faded. I cautiously lowered my arm, blinking away the after-images that danced before my eyes. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. And then I saw it. Standing in the center of the clearing, where moments before there had been only blinding light, was a figure. It was tall and slender, almost skeletal in its thinness. Terror, raw and primal, seized me. The figure took a step towards me, and I flinched back, my breath catching in my throat. Its movements were fluid, almost serpentine, as if it were gliding across the forest floor rather than walking. There was a strange grace to its movements, an otherworldly elegance that only served to amplify the terror that gripped me. And then it raised its head, and I saw its face. Its eyes were large and black, devoid of any pupil or iris, like two pools of liquid darkness that seemed to absorb all light. I wanted to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an invisible force. I was trapped, a helpless observer to this terrifying spectacle, my mind reeling from the sheer otherness of the creature before me. The air grew thick and heavy, charged with a strange metallic tang that made my stomach churn. It was getting harder to breathe, as if the very atmosphere itself was being sucked out of the clearing. I felt a pressure building in my head, a dull, throbbing pain that intensified with every passing second. The creature took another step towards me, and the shadow cast by its slender form stretched out before it, engulfing me in its darkness. I could feel its eyes boring into me, probing my thoughts, my fears, my very essence. The pressure in my head intensified, blossoming into a sharp, stabbing pain that made me cry out. Images, vivid and grotesque, flashed across my mind's eye. Alien landscapes, twisted and surreal, with skies of swirling colors and vegetation that pulsed with an eerie, bioluminescent glow. I saw vast, sterile cities, gleaming metal structures that towered into the alien sky, connected by shimmering lines of energy that pulsed with an eerie life of their own. And I saw creatures, beings of pure energy, shimmering and shifting, their forms constantly in flux, their thoughts a cacophony of alien whispers that echoed through my mind. The alien tilted its head, its large black eyes studying me with an unnerving intensity. It was as if it could see into the deepest recesses of my mind, reading my thoughts, my memories, my fears. And in that moment, I felt a strange sense of violation, as if my very soul were laid bare before this otherworldly being. The pressure in my mind became a searing connection. I was no longer just witnessing its thoughts. I was experiencing them. The alien's consciousness flowed into mine, a dark torrent of fear, despair, and a chilling alien hunger. I saw its memories unfold like a macabre tapestry, images of a world bathed in the pale light of a dying sun. A once great civilization teetering on the brink of extinction, its resources depleted, its hope dwindling with each passing day. The alien, I understood, was a scout, a desperate voyager sent out into the vastness of space in search of salvation. It was searching for a new home, a new source of energy, a new hope for its dying race. The alien's memories continued to flood my mind. I saw its homeworld in all its desolate glory. Once lush forests reduced to barren wastelands, crystal-clear oceans choked with pollution, cities, once teeming with life, now silent and crumbling, monuments to a dying race. I felt the desperation of its people, their fear, their anger, their dwindling hope. They had tried everything to save themselves. They had explored every corner of their planet, exhausted every resource. But it wasn't enough. The alien's hunger resonated within me, a deep primal yearning for something I couldn't comprehend. It craved energy, life force, the very essence of what it meant to be alive. And it saw that energy in abundance on Earth. We were, to the alien, a source of sustenance, a means to an end. The thought filled me with a visceral dread. As the alien's thoughts swirled within me, a strange kinship formed, not of empathy, but primal and unsettling. The kinship of predator and prey, bound by destiny. I saw myself through the alien's eyes, fragile and flickering. The alien, a being of pure energy, ancient and powerful. Our connection deepened, a twisted symbiosis. I was drowning in its essence, but also evolving. And in that moment, I understood true fear. The alien began to withdraw, its presence in my mind receding like a tide. The images faded, the pain subsided, leaving behind a hollow emptiness. I was left with the weight of its knowledge, the burden of its secrets. I knew now the true nature of the universe, the vastness of space. I also knew that we were not alone. The universe was teeming with life, some benevolent, some malevolent. The alien's essence, though receding, left a faint echo in my mind, a whisper of its intentions. It wasn't simply about conquest or resource plunder. It was more insidious, more unsettling. They sought to merge, to assimilate, to absorb the life force of another world, to replenish their own. Images flickered, not of war or invasion, but of strange symbiotic pods, where beings were interconnected, their life energies intertwined. It was a chilling vision of forced evolution, of losing one's individuality to become part of a collective consciousness. And I, a conduit, a bridge between two worlds, was given a choice. A single, terrifying choice. To resist, and perhaps doom both our races to separate, inevitable ends, or to become a harbinger, a facilitator of this unsettling union. The aliens' motives, though horrifying, held a chilling logic. It was about survival, about adapting to the cruel indifference of the cosmos. It was a choice countless civilizations had likely faced before, a choice that had shaped the very fabric of the universe. The forest around me, no longer silent, felt deafening. The rustle of leaves, the chirp of crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, all seemed to mock the cosmic horror of my situation. I was a lone man, entrusted with a decision that could alter the fate of worlds. The aliens' presence, though faint, pressed upon my mind, urging me to choose. I could feel its desperation, its yearning for survival, but also a strange, cold indifference to the fate of my own kind. Resistance, I knew, would be futile. The aliens' memories lingered, images of their merging process, a slow, insidious assimilation. It wasn't a violent affair, but a gradual blending, a merging of consciousness until the individual was no more, subsumed into the collective. I saw glimpses of the beings who had undergone the process, their eyes vacant, their movements mechanical, their individuality erased, replaced with a chilling uniformity. They were no longer individuals, but extensions of the collective, drones driven by a single, overwhelming purpose: survival. The price of their survival, I realized with a shudder, was everything that made us human. Our emotions, our individuality, our very souls. It was a price I was not willing to pay, not for myself, not for my species, but what choice did I have? To resist was to invite annihilation, to condemn both our races to a slow, agonizing demise. Was it better to fight and lose everything, or to sacrifice our very essence in the hope of a bleak, uncertain future? The faintest glimmer of dawn began to break over the horizon, painting the eastern sky in hues of pale orange and pink. It was a stark contrast to the cosmic horror that had unfolded in the forest clearing, a reminder of the beauty and fragility of our world. The aliens' presence had faded completely, leaving behind only a lingering sense of unease, a coldness that seemed to seep into my bones. I was alone, left to grapple with the impossible choice that had been thrust upon me. And as the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the forest floor, I made my decision. I would not resist. I would not condemn my species to oblivion. I would become their bridge, their conduit, their harbinger of change. But it wouldn't be a surrender, not entirely. I would learn their ways, study their technology, understand their motivations. And I would find a way to ensure the survival of both our races, even if it meant sacrificing a part of myself in the process. The forest around me seemed to hum with a newfound energy. I felt a profound sense of loss, a grief for the life I was leaving behind. But there was also a strange sense of purpose, a chilling acceptance of my fate. I was no longer just a man, but something more, something other. As the sun climbed higher, bathing the forest in its warm glow, I walked towards the rising sun, towards the city, towards the future that awaited me. The drive back to the city was a blur. The familiar sights of the highway, the cars, the billboards, all seemed alien, distant, as if I were watching them through a haze. The world hadn't changed, but I had. I felt the thoughts and emotions of the people around me, as a dull roar, a cacophony of hopes and fears and desires. Their lives, once so familiar, now seemed fragile, insignificant in the face of the cosmic knowledge I carried within me. The city, once a symbol of human achievement, now felt like a cage, a prison of concrete and steel. I saw the pollution, the poverty, the desperation that lurked beneath the surface of our so-called civilization. The aliens' memories haunted me, images of its dying world, a stark warning of what could become of Earth if we didn't change our ways. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments below and like and subscribe for more.